And since that time, in November of 2008, we have met regularly, every month, in order to initiate programs to bring the community together. Now, you're wondering, well, what types of things did you do? Well, one thing we did was put together a civility statement which essentially said that politicians, public figures who are going to talk about the issue of immigration need to abide by certain rules so that they didn't marginalize people or denigrate them to the point that young teenagers felt that they could go out and attack them at will. And we were able to get the Village Board of Trustees of Patchogue to unanimously endorse that statement, and we are still in the process of asking additional elected officials to sign on. But beyond that, we also staged a public event on April 20th called Raising the Curtain on Unity. It was held in the Patchogue Theater, a theater that holds 1,200 people, to say, good people, come out and join us and celebrate the diversity in this community. We had performances by many different musical groups and dance troupes with an accent on Latino culture from various national bases. And on the day of the event, of course, it started raining like crazy. We didn't have a big budget or marketing campaign, but eventually more and more and more people started coming into that theater until we had it packed. And when those performances took place, they were magnificent. And at the end of the performance, after having seen so many different standing ovations, I think everybody floated out of that theater on a cloud of goodwill. And recently, when we met with the mayor, he said that event was really a turning point for that community because it could see its way out of the abyss towards something better. And so what I'm telling you is that organizing to overcome long-held prejudices and bigotry, to overcome the ignorance of people who don't want to accept others who are different from them, requires really hard organizing, person to person, in small groups, on a sustained basis, innovative thinking, and dedication. But there has to also be something else. And I got to say it, even though in law school they'll never let you use this word. There also has to be love in your heart. If I use the word love in law school, I'd be out of there. What is that? It's a very ambiguous term. I mean, what is love? There you go. You're off and running. You have to detail love and categorize it, but it's something that's indispensable. And it exists in all of our communities. And it's the thing that Martin Luther King was talking about when he talked about the beloved community. And here we are in the Albanian Islamic Cultural Center, meeting while the United States is at war in Iraq and Afghanistan, at a time when many people feel as if they're free to vent aggression and hatred toward Muslims because of the fact that radical jihadists have attempted to seize the mantle of Islam. But the fact of the matter is, we are all under a responsibility to defend the human rights of Muslims in this country, in this city, in this state. If we don't defend our Muslim brothers and sisters, we are all diminished because our human rights are interdependent. That is something that many people don't understand, and it's something that was certainly chronicled over and over again in Europe during the Second World War, during the Holocaust, where all of the groups that could have objected and fought against the Nazis were picked off one by one by one. So the fact of the matter is that if we relinquish the human rights of any group in society, then our human rights are diminished as well because the commitment of our society to human rights and human dignity is eroded. That's indisputable. And I think that one of the most important things that I want to share with you is an encounter I had with one of the great icons in the civil rights struggle, in the civil rights movement during the last several months. This past summer, I read a wonderful book by Congressman John Lewis. who was the head of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. And the figure in that book who was most compelling was a person named Bob Moses. He was the person who was the field secretary coordinating the voter registration effort in Mississippi in 1964. That was the period, that was the effort that was depicted in a movie called Mississippi Burning. That was the time when Cheney, Goodman, and Schwerner were murdered. And after having read about that, I decided I was going to invite Bob Moses to New York to talk to us at the Division of Human Rights. I just felt it was absolutely necessary for us to do that because we were really working on the legacy that he'd given us. And so, lo and behold, he agreed to come and talk to us. And he came again for a conference later on. And his message, and this is what I want to share with you. He's now Dr. Robert P. Moses, who's president of the Algebra Project, which provides educational opportunities for low-income students around the country. His statement was, the civil rights movement stopped short. It didn't do its whole job because it didn't go into education. And he was saying that too many young people get a sharecropper education in our system, while others get an education that really prepares them for their role in society. And right now, he is advocating for an amendment to the United States Constitution to make education a fundamental right, which would mean that the federal government would have to sustain education equity in funding and other support. And at the end of his comments at the conference, he actually called on us to start a new movement, to start a new civil rights movement. I can tell you, I mean, we had at least 70 people in that room. They were riveted to everything he had to say because he's a very charismatic person and incredibly articulate. And when he said that, there was a charge that went through the room. Because here we had before us one of the most accomplished, superb organizers in the history of our country, telling us now is the time to move forward and start a movement, a new civil rights movement talking about fairness, bringing back into focus such concepts as justice and decency. So I'm looking around the room at a lot of different folks, especially a lot of young people. And I want to say to the young people that I can't tell you how often I have said to myself, I'm really so grateful that I grew up when I did, because I had the opportunity to see so many wonderful, heroic, committed, fabulous fighters for human rights and social justice. And I see in this room those people who are going to pick up that same standard and fight in the same amazing, historic, forceful way that we need. And so if somebody asks the question, how do you organize a community to respect human rights? How do you bring together diverse groups? The answer is you reach out to the good people, and you never stop reaching out, and you never stop meeting, and you never stop discussing, and you never stop strategizing. You keep fighting day after day after day. That is the way they did it in 1964, in 1963, in 1965, and all those times. And that's the way we need to do it today.